Our selection today will be Bound for Canaan Land.
Where are you bound? Bound for Canaan land.
Oh, you must not lie.
You must not steal. You must not take Yah's name in vain. I'm bound for Canaan land. Your horse is white, your garments bright. You look like a man of war. Raise up your head with courage bold, for the race is almost won. Where are you bound? Bound for Canaan land.
Oh, you must not lie.
You must not steal. You must not take Yah's name in vain. I'm bound for Canaan land. Although you see me going on, I'm bound for Canaan land. I've many trials down here below, but I'm bound for Canaan land. Where are you bound? Bound for Canaan land.
Oh, you must not lie.
You must not steal. You must not take Yah's name in vain. I'm bound for Canaan land. Bound for Canaan land. Bound for Canaan land.
The Oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. That all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you up on earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And it is a ugly, rainy day, but praise Yahweh. He has still allowed us to an opportunity to keep his holy Sabbath. When we examine the things that we have coming up, we know that we are getting close. On the 15th, I think is the date, will be our Feast of Pentecost. And this is one of those things that causes a great deal of controversy, because you have Christians and Hebrews who all keep this day, but it gets interesting when you look into where these things were orchestrated. A lot of people don't really understand that Pentecost is a Old Testament, Old Covenant holy day. Because of, and this is the power of name changing, of what that can do. This is why you have a totally different doctrine in the name of Jesus than what you have in the name of Yahshua. Because when you can orchestrate a name change, you can also orchestrate a lot of other different things. So there are about to be an enormous amount of Christians that are about to celebrate the Feast of Pentecost, while in the same breath saying and proclaiming that the Old Testament is null and void, not understanding where the day comes from. So the power of a name change is absolutely just cannot be measured, because you're going to have all of these different groups of people keeping the same day, but some people will be calling it one thing and some other people will be calling it something else. But it's interesting in why this thing is still popular amongst Christians, because there was a lot of things that end up taking place on Pentecost. So it becomes very advantageous for the people to want to partake in that particular thing, because they want all the possible positives that come with keeping that day. So let's first go through and read this account of Pentecost here in the New Testament. We're going to Acts chapter 2, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place.
Now, the reason, see, if you just read these things out of the New Testament, there are certain levels of understanding that is passing you by. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. Why? Because all males must make their appearance 3 times a year. That is the purpose of the gathering, why they're going through this. But if you don't understand that point, or if you just understand it and then you take it for granted that other people might understand it, when you get ready to talk to someone who doesn't believe in the Old Testament at all, you have already passed a point for you to stop and explain why they were there. See, they don't think that matters, that they were all in one place. They were all in one place for a reason. Think about it. We all go, all these people in here live somewhere else. We're all gathered here for a reason. We're here to keep Yahweh's holy Shabbat. But what if we don't say that and we're talking to somebody else? They don't really know why we all gathered here today. See, if they don't know that and you don't stop. So here we are at verse 1, and you already have to stop, because you take it for granted that you think they know why they're gathered in that place. They don't know that. So before you just go to grabbing and then taking off reading, at verse 1, you need to stop. Do you understand why they're gathered there? All together in one place? There's a reason for that. Go ahead.
And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting.
So now this is the Holy Spirit. And if you read the things of the Holy Spirit, and it talks about as the Spirit, it talks about even in the beginning, as the wind blows, so is everyone that is born of the Spirit. For you will not know which way it is coming from or which way it's going, because it is getting its direction from the Spirit and not from man. Go ahead.
And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other languages, as the Spirit gave them utterance.
Right. And this is something that is, of course, taken way out of context on Sunday morning. And instead of speaking pure languages, they just make up their own language. And it becomes a vain show at this point. So this makes the day of Pentecost, very profitable for people to try to engage in. Go ahead.
And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Yehudis, devout men out of every nation under heaven.
So then consider this. Think about verse 1. They were all with one accord in one place. What does with one accord mean? They're all there for the same purpose. They all know why they're there. Now, when you jump back down to verse 5, they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Yehudim, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So, from all over, they all came back for the same reason, to make their appearance. They're not just coming because they want to hang out. They didn't just come because they thought it was some real cool stuff to do. Go ahead.
Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together, and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Right, because they had been scattered, they had been spread. This gift gave them the ability to all communicate with one another. This is the part that I have yet to get all of the brothers who they consistently push Hebrew. If you're not speaking Hebrew, you're not a real teacher. You're not a real student. You don't really believe in the word. Here's the part that I have not gotten any one of them to answer yet. You see the part where it says, out of every nation under heaven? If you learn Hebrew, who are you going to communicate with? You got brothers coming from France, Spain, all these other places. What good is Hebrew going to do you? All them speak different languages. And who you going to speak Hebrew to? It sure ain't going to be no lost sheep. Those found sheep, they already know what they're doing. I don't need to talk to you. This makes sense. The gift is there so they all can communicate. See, but when we go on what we can do with our own natural abilities, now we want to learn a language and then look down upon everybody who doesn't know that language. Here's the problem. There's too many languages under the sun. We have been scattered to the four corners of the globe. What man knows all those languages by himself? At most, we can get 2 or 3. And then you have to ask yourself, if you don't practice those over and over, oh my God, they slip right through. See, we speak this language all the time. Try not speaking a language for a little while. I did Spanish in school. Ask me some Spanish now. Como se llama? There it is. I'm done. I am out of the game, Jack. I haven't tried to speak any of that in so long. So it don't stay with you. You have to use it. That's the thing that people are missing. And you got our people spread out everywhere. So this gift was necessary. But they have turned the necessary gift of the Spirit into a vain show. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue, wherein we were born?
Right. So the person that's speaking goo gobbledygoo, my question is, which one of y'all was raised up speaking goo gobbledygoo? What language is that? Because we supposed to hear it in our own language. So if he speak Russian, I'm going to hear it in English. Who spoke? Who speak that? Don't nobody speak that. Go ahead.
Parthians and Medes and Elamites, and the dwellers in Mesopotamia, and in Judea and Cappadocia, in Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt, and in parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Yehudis and proselytes.
And proselytes. Those are converts. Go ahead.
Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of Elohim.
So we hear them speak in our languages the wonderful things that Elohim has done. So we understand that Yahweh is just not our Elohim that's dealing in our little church. See, my God is a whole lot bigger than that. My God ain't just working in the place where you at. Go ahead.
And they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying one to another, What meaneth this? Others mocking said, These men are full of new wine.
Right. You might think somebody drunk too. If all of them speaking different languages at each other, you hear Chinese coming from one end, you hear Jamaican coming, and they still talking to each other. And you looking at each other like, that's not the same language, man. We've heard two Africans talking. We've heard two Asians talking. But you ain't never heard an Asian and a brother speaking patois talk to each other at the same time. And the Asian speaking Asian, but the brother from Jamaica speaking patois, and they both understand each other. You're like, okay, they drunk. They got to be drunk. Because this here don't make no sense. You listen to enough languages and you can say, okay, that's that same language there. Okay, that's that same language there. Now, you don't know what they're saying, but you know they at least sound the same. Okay? The words are going to sound the same. Oh, it sounds extremely strange when you hear one of them speaking one language and the other one speaking another one, and they looking at each other dead in the eyes. And you're sitting there like, what in the world is this? I know that's not the same language. That's the gift of my Elohim. See, they have trivialized the gift of my Elohim so much that we don't understand just how much of a gift this was. This is amazing. For people to be speaking totally different languages and understand one another. Remember, Yahweh was the one who confounded the languages. Go ahead.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 14. But Cephas, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, You men of Judea, and all you that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken, as you suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith Elohim, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh.
So this was an outpouring of the Spirit. This is what this is. Yet you have people, congregations that believe that they have the ability to teach this gift. Now, this was something that was given by the Spirit, but there are churches that have classes on being able to speak in tongues. There's certain things that ought to burn your ear when you hear it. There's certain things that when they start saying, you go, what you say? You say you got a class to teach? Ah! That stuff should start burning. I don't even know how some of y'all listen that long. For real? Oh my goodness, I gotta go. How you have a class to teach? That means you got the power of the Spirit. You tell the Spirit, look, sit down, the class don't start at 8. Do whatever you Spirit people do, you know what I'm saying, until the class starts. What? Go ahead.
And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy.
Now, this is another gift of the Spirit. Listen to a lot of these brothers walking around on the corner, especially the purple people. They tell you that anybody who reads has become a prophet. Yet, this is also a gift of the Spirit. So, whereas you may want to look at those brothers on the corner like they're different than the people on Sunday morning, but I beg to differ. It's the same problem. How do you give everybody the gift of prophecy because they can read? So now I've become a prophet in their eyes because I know how to read? Is that the case? 90% of the world is prophets. Go ahead.
And I'll show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before that great and notable day of the Adonai come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Adonai shall be saved.
Right, and this has caused great confusion because this is why people believe that they can do dirt like all of their lives and then get down to their deathbed. This is why, everybody, when they come to that deathbed, all of that arrogancy goes away. And then they want to call everybody that they've done wrong, and they want to go ahead and, get their last little prayer before the breath go out. Forgive me, Jesus. And then, they're going to wake up in heaven. Now, here's the real twisted part. They got the wrong name anyway. You see how Yahweh play with those who like to play? Oh, you like to play? Here you go. Here go Jesus. Play with that. So now they're going to play those games, get all the way to their deathbed, and call out the wrong name. Forgive me, Jesus. And then wake up. What you mean I wasn't forgiven? What you mean? He's like, who is Jesus? Who is that? See? That's what you get for trying to be slick. Go ahead.
You men of Israel, hear these words. Yahshua of Nazareth, a man approved of Elohim among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which Elohim did by him in the midst of you, as you yourself also know, him being delivered by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge of Elohim, you have taken, and by wicked hands have crucified and slain, whom Elohim has raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it. For Dawid speaketh concerning him, I foresaw the Adonai always before my face, for he is on my right hand, that I should not be moved.
Now, this right here causes a lot of controversy with these old covenant brothers who do not believe in Yahshua. And they said that there's no right hand, because they'll go back in the scripture and read, there's none else beside me, which means there's none else except me. But they will take that out of context, use that in that way. So I present a question that I haven't gotten an answer to. If it's Yahweh only, and maybe he didn't mean let us make man, why did he give us the name Israel instead of Yahweh? Why didn't he just give us Yahweh first? Why didn't he just give us, why are we called Israelites instead of Yahwehites? We're not called Yahwehites. See? So if there's not another entity, why were we given the name Israel, which is prince, which is automatically under the king? That's what a prince is. Why were we given the name of a prince? I ain't had one of them old covenant brothers answer that yet. Because if that was the case, we all supposed to be Yahwehites. But that's not what we're called. Go ahead, brother. You got it together over there. Look like you need to jump in some of that island water, don't you? And then what they do when your island boys get sick, they say, go out there and get in the water, man. You don't need no medicine. Get in the water, let the salt get it. Man, that's your problem, bro. You too far from home. You ain't got in no water yet. Somebody get that brother some salt water, just throw it on him, man, He ain't used to that regular water. That's just regular water, sweetie. That ain't gonna do nothing for him. He need that salt water. He need that salt. He used to salt. That stuff ain't gonna do him no good.
Verse 26.
Go ahead, bro.
Therefore did my heart rejoice, my tongue was glad. Moreover also my flesh shall rest in hope. Because you will not leave my soul in the grave. Neither will you suffer.
Which is what hell is, the grave. Now, sometimes they'll use that out of context and refer it when they're talking about the lake of fire. The lake of fire and hell, two totally different places. Hell is the grave. That is where someone is buried and where they will see corruption, meaning that this is where the body decays. This has absolutely nothing to do with punishment. Everybody get that punishment at the same time. There ain't nobody that's burning nowhere at this particular point. Everybody that's dead is asleep. Go ahead.
Neither will you suffer your Holy One to see corruption. You have made known to me the ways of life. You shall make me full of joy with your countenance. Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he's both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that Elohim had sworn with an oath to him.
All right, what? So Yahshua a prophet. So anytime I read, I become equal to Yahshua. Now I want you to just sit there and think about how stupid that is for a second. And this is what people teaching from corner to corner. You need to think. See, you need to learn how to first of all hear blasphemy, even when it sounds smooth and it's laced with sugary goodness. You need to think about just how stupid that is. So because I can read, I am now a prophet like Yahshua. That's what you're telling me. Read, brother.
Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that Elohim had sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up the Mashiach to sit on his throne. He, seeing this before, spake of the resurrection of the Mashiach, that his soul was not left in the grave, neither his flesh did see corruption. This Yahshua has Elohim raised up, whereof we all are witnesses. Therefore, being by the right hand of Elohim exalted, and having received of the Father the promise of the Holy Spirit, he has shed forth this, which you now see and hear. For David is not ascended into the heavens, but he says himself, Yahweh said unto my Adonai, sit you on my right hand, until I make your foes your footstool. Therefore, let all the house of Israel know assuredly that Elohim has made that same Yahshua, whom you have crucified, both Adonai and Mashiach. Now when they heard this, they were pricked in their heart, and said unto Cephas and to the rest of the apostles, Men and brethren, what shall we do? Then Cephas said unto them, Repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Yahshua the Mashiach, for the remission of sins, and you shall receive the gift of the Holy Spirit.
So then there were instructions given. Yet we still have Hebrews that do not believe in baptism. Go ahead.
For the promise is unto you, and to your children, and to all that are afar off, even as many as the Adonai our Elohim shall call. And with many other words did he testify and exhort, saying, Save yourselves from this untoward generation. Then they that gladly received his word were baptized.
Now listen to this. They that gladly received his word were baptized. You have to understand that the people that are out teaching a lot of these things have never been baptized. None of their leaders have ever been baptized, and they are teaching against baptism. Go ahead.
And the same day there were added on to them about 3,000 souls.
Now, let me also show you a little bit of how to pick out hypocrisy. Those ones that say, you know, you're baptized by the word. See, once you start understanding the word, you're baptized. So you think all of them understood that word? How many did it say? 3,000? So 3,000 people just understood the word and was self-baptized in one day. See, some stuff you need to say out loud so you can see how stupid it sounds. Sometimes you should actually try that with yourself sometimes. Sometimes when you think something stupid, say it out loud and be like, you know what? You know what? That was stupid. But see, if you do that, see, that's called self-check. See, sometimes if you go through your self-check, then you won't go somewhere and sound stupid in front of other people. You were just stupid in front of yourself. See, you get in the mirror and practice that. Oh my goodness, that is stupid. And then don't nobody know it was stupid but you and that person in the mirror who looked just like you. Nobody else knew about it. See, that's called self-check. You was able to check that right there. It never went anywhere else. And if we master that, we would be able to help ourselves out a whole lot. Go ahead, brother. You had to self-check this morning? Go ahead, bro.
You consider the fact of when Yeshua got his baptism, is after the baptism the Spirit came down onto him.
Uh-huh.
So we see that how important the baptism is.
Hey, man, but see, Jake got some strange stuff. Jake got a mixed up thing of what is going on with the word, because you have a situation where in opening the door unto the Gentiles, they were able to receive as a sign, receive the Spirit first, so that they would get their baptism and deal with things. These people say the Gentiles are not even accepted in the word, but then they want to have the Spirit without the baptism, like it happened as a sign unto the Gentiles. Man, that doctrine's so mixed up. But if you don't catch it, they will push all of that twisted doctrine to you. And then you walking down the street dizzy and drunk, thinking that what you got was pure. Go ahead, brother. Did you finish that?
And they continued steadfastly in the apostles, doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread and in prayers.
All right, let's go to Acts chapter 18. So we can see how important Saul believed these things to be. Acts chapter 18, and let's read verses 18 through 23.
Verse 18. And Saul after this tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria. And with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchrea, for he had a vow. And he came to Ephesus and left them there.
For the accomplishing of a vow, even when you read the things about the locks, when they had a vow that no razor would come upon their head, whenever there was an ending of that particular thing, or if something came in between their vow, they had to shave off their head to accomplish, to signify the end of that vow. Go ahead.
But he himself entered into the synagogue and reasoned with the Yehudis. When they desired him to tarry longer time with them, he consented not, but bade them farewell.
Right. When they desired him to tarry longer, they're asking him to stay longer. He said no. See, this is that part about self-control that we all have to magnify within ourselves and understand. Look, I got somewhere else to be. That means I can't, because see, sometimes we get caught up in the moment, We know what time we're supposed to be somewhere. But, we get, I'm feeling real festive right now, I'm just going to hang out. Yeah, but you know what time you're supposed to be somewhere. See, no. He like doing his job. He like talking to people about the word. But I can't stay here. I got somewhere to be. Go ahead.
Saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem.
I must by all means keep this feast that comes in Jerusalem. Why? Because it is mandatory that all males make their appearance 3 times in the year. And this is not, and we're talking old time travel. This ain't easy travel. I travel now. Oh man, we cheating. We got mass transit, man. This was ugly travel, man. Hard, rough travel. And it take a minute. Go ahead.
But I will return again unto you, if Elohim will.
Right. Basically, he said, y'all's will. Because I may want to do something. And this is why we say, y'all willing, I'll see you tomorrow. I might plan on being here tomorrow. But if Yahweh got some other plans for me that he ain't told me, because I'm on a need to know basis. I might find out 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be with you. That Yahweh said, no, you ain't going there. You're going somewhere. Hey, I ain't in control like that. Go ahead.
And he sailed from Ephesus. And when he had landed at Caesarea and gone up and saluted the church, he went down to Antioch. And after he had spent some time there, he departed and went over all the country of Galatia and Phrygia in order, strengthening all the disciples.
Right. And then we read that he ended up going to other places saying the same thing. I must go and keep this feast. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. See, what's happening and the way this has been become trivialized on Sunday morning is the people are taking part in it, but they don't really have any understanding of what it is. All they have is what happened in Acts chapter 2, that they must do it. That's pretty much all that's laid out before the people. And then this also gives them the ability to make merchandise of the people without really understanding what's going on. Deuteronomy chapter 16, and let's read verses 9 through 12.
"7 weeks shall you number unto you, beginning to number the 7 weeks from such time as you begin to put the sickle to the corn."
So then we know that a week in ancient times is the same thing as a week is today. So there's certain things that you can read that are going to bust up various doctrines, because you have those Enochians, those people that use the Enoch calendar. They'll tell you some weeks got 8 days in it. So you have to learn how to listen right. They have some weeks they got 7 days, some got 8. Then some got a day 0. I don't know what you do on a day 0. I don't know what happens on a day 0. Like, if should you get paid on that day if you work? You know what I'm saying? Because it really ain't a day. I mean, how you explain that? Here, 7 weeks was 49 days. Go ahead.
"And you shall keep the feast of weeks unto Yahweh your Elohim with a tribute of a freewill offering of your hand, which you shall give unto Yahweh your Elohim according as Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you."
Now, this is where the hypocrisy jumps in, because now there's a blessing that is supposed to be given according to the blessing that was given unto you. So now, without truly explaining these things, now these things are handed out on Sunday morning. And the interesting thing about Pentecost is it will basically always be on a Sunday. Like what we will do will be Saturday night, which of course is Sunday. So this is the one holy day that will always be on Sunday. This makes it very, very popular to Sunday worshipers. It will always be on a Sunday. But why? That's the part they do not understand. Why will it always be on a Sunday? Go ahead.
"And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim, you and your son and your daughter, and your manservant and your maidservant, and the Levite that is within your gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which Yahweh your Elohim hath chosen to place his name there."
Right. So not just anywhere. This is something that you have to pay attention to. In the place which Yahweh your Elohim has chosen to place his name there. His name is where his spirit is. That's just not everywhere. Go ahead.
"And you shall remember that you was a bondman in Egypt, and you shall observe and do these statutes."
Right. And we have a tendency to forget the things that we have been through. We will forget that we were bondmen and bondwomen. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. And it wasn't that long for us, even here. And some of us have elected to forget. We don't want to hear nothing about it. Leviticus chapter 23, and let's read verses 15 through 22.
And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering.
Okay, now this is where it gets very hypocritical for Sunday morning worshipers. You are beginning this count after the Sabbath. You are turning from the Sabbath is your count. So their leaders then understand that the Sabbath is the seventh day, which is what we call Saturday. They have to know this. This is how you count the days. Go ahead.
Even unto the morrow after the seventh Sabbath shall you number 50 days.
So it's 7 times 7. After that is complete, the next day is the 50th day. So this is why it's always on Sunday. It will always be the day after the Sabbath. So if they thought Sunday was their Sabbath, their Pentecost should be on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
You see? You see how easy it is to pick hypocrisy out? See, this is what happened. See, this happened to me enough times in school. So whenever there's like a question, especially math, if you get the answer, there's another way that you can backtrack back to the question. That's how they know I would cheat. Because the teacher was like, you know what? That's the right answer. Now show me how you got it. Oh, you mean how I got it? Show me how you got the answer. You want me to show you? I want you to show me how you got the answer. The answer's right. I got the answer like this. Yeah, that didn't work out in my favor. That didn't work out. Go ahead, bro.
And you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. You shall bring it out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yah.
Now, this is you, Israel. These first loaves are accepted. They are the first fruits of everything, and they are baking with leaven. Leaven is a representation of sin. Yahweh still accepts you even in your sin. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock, and 2 rams.
Now, there's things you have to pay attention to. You're going to consistently hear lambs, bullock, and rams. See, this is why we blow a ram's horn, and you're going to find out that there's all kinds of things that are going to be just kind of side notes that are going to explain strange doctrines of other Israelites, because we love to walk around with that big long kadu horn. But when you keep reading these offerings and all of these things that have to go, the horn that we blow is a ram's horn. You're going to keep hearing ram, which is just a full-grown male lamb. All right, the lamb is the young version. Okay, so now you got this ram. I want you to pause, stop me anytime you get to a kadu when we read these offerings, all right? Because we're going to keep going by rams, all right? So when you get to a kadu, that's what the longhorn is, stop me. It says, stop. There's a kadu. So y'all stop me, all right? Go ahead.
They shall be for a burnt offering unto Yah, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offering.
Mm-hmm.
And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before Yahweh, with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to Yahweh for the priest.
And you have to pay attention to some things. You shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for sin, and 2 lambs for a sacrifice of peace. So the goat for sin, and the lambs sacrifice for peace. And one thing we know about goats, will tear up everything you got going on. Lamb, they'll follow you. You just call them. They get to know your voice. They'll just come to you. And when he says things, my sheep shall know my voice. That's how the sheep follow the herder. They just listen to him. He just go out there and start talking, and they just follow the voice and come to where he is. The goat, oh man, they're on the other side of your yard tearing up something. And they ain't gonna tear up all of it, they just gonna tear up half of it. You know, cause then, then they see, oh man, I can tear up this too. So then they go over there and tear that up. Right. Go ahead.
And you shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be an holy convocation unto you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations.
So when we look at even examining this graphic, you have how to count these days. You have the 7 days of creation. Then you have 7 holy days. All right. So then you have 7 times 7, which gives us the 49. The 50th day is where this outpouring of the Spirit takes place. So this will be where we receive our increase out of the ground after we've planted our thing. So you're going to find a lot of 7s and 50s within these readings. So you find out that they have spiritual significance. Go to this next graphic, and I want you to read the definition here of Pentecost.
Pentecost, from G4005, which means it's a Greek word, feminine of G4004, 50th. G2250 being implied from Passover, that is, the festival of Pentecost.
So, in their thing, the true name for Pentecost is Feast of Weeks. But because we were given the Greek term of Penta, which means 50, now all of the people that are taking part in it have no idea that this is a Old Testament holy day. So while they're throwing rocks at you, saying y'all one of them old law keepers, they have no idea that Pentecost comes from the Old Testament. So they'll be talking about you in the same breath while they're keeping Pentecost. And if you don't bring it out to them, they still don't have a clue. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. See, that's the power of a name change. See, the power of a name change has many people that have grown up with a picture of Passover on their wall, though they've never kept Passover. But the name of the picture was renamed Last Supper. So why you got a picture of Passover on your wall? Oh, that's not Passover, that's the Last Supper. Because that was given a different name, they don't think that it has any relevance to the Feast of Passover. So here it is, they speak against Passover while having a picture of Passover on their wall their entire childhood. That is the power of a name change. Exodus chapter 23, and let's start that at verse 10.
In 6 years you shall sow your land, and shall gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie still, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the beast of the field shall eat. In like manner you shall deal with your vineyard and with your olive yard.
Right.
6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your ass may rest, and the son of your handmaiden and the stranger may be refreshed.
So even these things are still based on creation. All of the holy days are set within these things, and everything as far as how righteousness is set is still going according to this 7th day. The 7th day is Saturday. Sunday is the first day. What we did and what Yahweh has given us was 7 times 7, give you 49. It's the next day. Theirs, they keep day 1. 1 times 1 give you 1. Plus 1, day 2. Tell me what you planted that's going to grow 2 days later. Go ahead, bro.
And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of your mouth.
Now, we're going to have to get to that, because all of the things that we have been given here in the daughter of Babylon are named after other gods. And you have, especially with the old cup, because you have several different layers of people and how they push dealing with the fringes. And some of them say, it's a commandment and we have to do it and we must do it. And it reminds us to keep all of the commandments. Okay. Now, the first thing right here, make no mention of other gods. You know how difficult that's going to be in the daughter of Babylon? All their days named after their gods. January is named after their god. How you plan on telling somebody when to pay you without mentioning one of the names of their god? Wednesday is named after Wooden. So, I got to end up glorifying one of their gods to tell these people when to pay me. Because if I tell them pay me on the 4th day, I may never get paid. They like, the 4th day of what? That ain't gonna work. See, so you have to learn how to take some things with a grain of salt. Go ahead.
Verse 14. 3 times you shall keep a feast unto me in the year. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it you came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty.
Right. So then you have Passover. The very next day is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This is your appearance there. Go ahead.
And the Feast of Harvest, the first fruits of your labors.
The first fruit of your labors. And if you go back to what we read in the Feast of Weeks, and why it's called the Feast of Weeks, 7 weeks. This is where the beginning of the first fruits of your harvest are going to come from. This is then your next appearance. Go ahead.
Which you have sown in the field, and the Feast of Ingathering.
This is then the Feast of Tabernacles. This is in the end of your planting. So if you look on the graphic, these holy days, you have the days separated between the spring and then the fall. And think about when they come back to back in one season. And then when they come to the other season, they come back to back. That's why you have several of them here and then several of them there. See, Yahweh has order. Go ahead.
Which is in the end of the year, when you have gathered in your labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before Yahweh Elohim. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not seed a kid in his mother's milk.
The first of your first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of Yahweh your Elohim. So the first of your increase is supposed to be brought unto Yahweh. Now, let's go to Numbers chapter 28. Numbers chapter 28, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, My offering and my bread of my sacrifice made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me, shall you observe to offer unto me in their due season. And you shall say unto them, This is the offering made by fire, which you shall offer unto Yahweh. 2 lambs of the first year without spot day by day, for a continual burnt offering.
So 2 lambs of the first year without spot day by day. Now stop me when you get to a kadu. Go ahead.
The one lamb shall you offer in the morning, and the other lamb shall you offer at even.
So we got one lamb in the morning, one lamb in the evening. Go ahead.
And a 10th part of an ephah of flour for a meat offering, mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil. It is a continual burnt offering, which was ordained in Mount Sinai for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yah. And the drink offering thereof shall be the 4th part of an hin for the one lamb. In the holy place shall you cause the strong wine to be poured onto Yahweh for a drink offering.
Right. And you know, we remember those old movies where the brothers pull out a little something for the homies who ain't here. You know, and for a long time, brothers, you know what I'm saying, they crack open a bottle of wine and be like, yeah, man, yeah, because we saw this in Cooler High, brother. You know what I'm saying? Pull out, you know, a little something for the brothers who ain't here. Right. They got that out of your book. Read, man.
And the other lamb shall you offer at even, as the meat offering of the morning, and as the drink offering thereof. You shall offer it, a sacrifice made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yah. And on the Shabbat day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot.
All right, on the Sabbath, 2 lambs of the first year, which, of course, goes right back to the ram. We still ain't found the kadu yet. Keep reading.
And 2 tenth deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and the drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath, beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. And in the beginnings of your month you shall offer a burnt offering unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram.
So here we go again. Now, so we got day by day, we got Sabbaths, and now you have the beginnings of your months. These are all offerings, all right, that are said to be done. Now, remember now, we got a whole lot of Hebrews that don't believe in Yahshua. So we hadn't even got to offerings for sins of your own sins. This ain't got nothing to do with nothing you did wrong. This everyday normal stuff at this point. Now they don't believe in Yahshua. They haven't had their Messiah. Or they got a whole lot of problems. And then the same people walking around, this is where the hypocrisy is. They walk around with fringes on, telling you how it reminds them to keep the law. So what time y'all doing offering today? What time y'all gonna do it? See, my fringe don't mean that to me because I got a savior. His name Yahshua. So I don't have to do that. I understand that. But they don't believe in Yahshua. So then we got to go through, okay, so how many problems you got then where you standing? Go ahead.
You know, even in verse 11 here, if you're not paying attention, it says in the beginning of your months. Like you said, you can go to talk to certain people and be telling them we're gathering for new moon. What's that?
What? Right.
This is in the beginning of the month.
Right. They don't even know what a new month is. New moon? What's that? Hey man, y'all ain't doing none of that vampire stuff, is you? No, ain't nobody over there howling or nothing like that, is y'all don't just sit there and howl, you know. I ain't down with no Hebrew vampires, I'm telling you now. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 11, and in the beginning of your months you shall offer a burnt offering unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without spot.
Right, the beginning of your months. There's a lot of stuff going on. Go ahead.
And 3 tenth deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, for 1 bullock, and 2 tenth deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, for 1 ram. And a several tenth deal of flour mingled with oil for a meat offering unto 1 lamb, for a burnt offering of a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yahweh. And their drink offerings shall be half an hin of wine unto a bullock, and the 3rd part of an hin unto a ram, and a 4th part of an hin unto a lamb. This is the burnt offering of every month throughout the months of the year.
Right, and of course, then we're finding this wine, and you have people that are just too holy to believe that wine should, be in a church gathering. So they have caused themselves to be holier than thou. So this is why the church brings in the grape juice. See, this is why they have their so-called what you call that thing? They have communion, right? That they just do at the beginning of every month. They do their communion, and they got grape juice and leavened cracker. It's unleavened bread. Leaven is a representation of sin. So it's supposed to be an unleavened cracker and wine. So they got one of them represent the body, which is the bread. The wine represents the blood. So their communion is fake body and fake blood. And wonder why they don't have a real Messiah. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And one kid of the goats for a sin offering
There go that goat again. There go that goat. Go ahead.
Beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering.
Right. And remember, I don't know if we were talking about that at the table. One of the things that they have for becoming a member in the Masonic Lodge is you got to ride the goat. That's your initiation, riding the goat. And all you find in dealing with the goat, sin. Then you find out the devil worshipers, what's they symbol? Goat. Goat. You see the little goat head, you run into the little devil worshipers, they got the goat. Right. Go ahead.
But you know, brother, as we going through all these wines, please keep in mind, these people are not getting drunk.
Yeah, well, you know, that is a good point. Because with Jake, you know, we drink until we get big. But you know what? That's because, you know, we indulge past our point. And that's something that you're supposed to learn. You know, you learn that even alcohol takes a while to get into your system. Now, I figured out that my first time drinking alcohol, because I was drinking to get drunk, you know, because I was like, all right, I want, you know, I'm almost of age. So I said, you know, it is time for me to go ahead and get drunk. So I just kept drinking. And I was like, I ain't drunk yet. Give me another one. And they were like, hey, man, I don't think that's a good idea. By the time I said, oh, I feel funny, the other 5 hadn't got in yet. And when they did, it wasn't pretty at all. I upchucked all that stuff. That's not our focus. We don't drink to get drunk. You have to learn how to even pace yourself. But that's one of those things that you even figure out as being an adult, you know. But some adults still act like children. You know, they start slurring. There's some people, you know, and when my elder was alive, there were people that came around that he just said, you know, hey, they can't have no wine. Because they get to drinking and then they love everybody. Eli, you are one handsome brother. God, you look good. You look good. You know what? You can't drink no more. You cannot drink no more. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody just start looking delicious. No, you don't come in here no more. See, you got a problem. Now, I'm not going to tell everybody they can't drink because you got a little slight bedtime problem when you drink. You know what I'm saying? That's not everybody's problem. That's your problem. You can't drink no more. Don't come in here. You know, if you smell some wine all of a sudden, now you lay it out in the lobby. No, you can't do that. But that's not now everybody's problem because you can't monitor yours. But once again, self-check. If you know you have an issue, you ain't got to tell everybody your issue. Just when they offer you wine, no, thank you. You ain't got to tell people, look, I just forget where my house at when I drink. You know what I'm saying? I try to go home with strange people. All right, well then there it is. You don't drink. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of Yah. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. Verse 17. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. In the first day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no manner of servile work therein. But you shall offer a sacrifice made by fire for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram,
Here we go with the ram again. Go ahead.
and 7 lambs of the first year. They shall be unto you without blemish.
Right. And the people who you run into the most with the fringes, none of them have a ram's horn. And you keep reading ram, ram, ram over and over and over. But they will approach you fringed up. I seen a little boy that had a fringe belt on. I had never seen anything like that before in my life. Little boy said, "You wear one of these?" I said, "What you talking about, little boy?" Lift up that shirt. I said, "What the hell is that?" Man, it looked like a superhero belt, bro. He had that thing tied up. Went all the way around. That way he can have it for every outfit. And you didn't even know he had it on if he didn't pull up the shirt. I said, "Well, look at here." But then you have to consider all of these other things that are not being done, but we at least look like Hebrews when we're going out. See? Go ahead.
And their meat offering shall be of flour mingled with oil. 3/10 deals shall you offer for a bullock, and 2/10 deals for a ram.
Here we go with this ram. Go ahead.
A several 10th deals shall you offer for every lamb throughout the 7 lambs.
And understand, this ram is representative of Yahshua. Understand that. So when you run into these people with their little canoe, you have to wonder, who is your Messiah? So you have to start putting things side by side. While they walk around with the fringes, they also keep a canoe, even though the ram is a representative of Yahshua. But then they also will not receive a baptism. Wait a minute. You start checking certain boxes and you start to figure out, wait a minute, we ain't even in the same gospel here. We into something totally different. Go ahead.
And 1 goat for a sin offering to make an atonement for you. You shall offer these besides the burnt offering in the morning, which is for a continual burnt offering. After this manner you shall offer daily throughout the 7 days the meat of the sacrifice made by fire of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. It shall be offered beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering.
Now, beside. Pay attention to that word. Beside. Not sitting next to. You have to think about how people take certain things out of context. They say, there's none else beside me. None else except me, other than what I have set up. But they take that literally as something sitting next to him. Go ahead.
And on the 7th day you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. Also in the day of the first fruits, when you bring a new meat offering unto Yahweh, after your weeks be out, you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. But you shall offer the burnt offering for a sweet savor unto Yahweh. 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year.
So ram and then 7 lambs. Go ahead.
And their meat offering of flour mingled with oil. 3/10 deals onto 1 bullock, 2/10 deals onto 1 ram. And several 10th deal onto 1 lamb throughout the 7 lambs.
So when you're talking about, you have a ram full grown, and then the young ones, which are the lambs. So you have the same animal represented twice in each one of these things. Just 1 grown, 1 young. Go ahead.
And 1 kid of the goats to make an atonement for you. You shall offer them beside the continual burnt offering and his meat offering. They shall be unto you without blemish, and their drink offerings.
So then in all of this, we did not read anything of a canoe being offered up anywhere. So then we have to consider when we encounter some of these things, just how out of line it actually is. Let's go to Numbers chapter 15, because we need to examine this thing even of the fringe, because you're always running into especially in the on the internet, you're gonna run into these hecklers that say, and that's what they are. They just hecklers because they ain't gonna do nothing. Um, but they like to run off at the mouth. This was Yahweh's word. This is what he gave us, and we supposed to keep all of his commandments and his laws. Yet half of them don't believe in Yahshua, so they haven't done any of those offerings that we just read. So now let's go Numbers chapter 15, and let's read verses 37 through 41.
Verse 37. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue.
So the ribbon of blue is supposed to be on the fringe that is then on the border of the garment. Go ahead.
And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that you may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of Yahweh, and do them.
You're supposed to then look upon the fringe to remember to keep the commandment. But from the beginning, the law was supposed to be written in our heart. This is why. So you think Saul, when he says, I must by all means go back to keep this feast, you think he had to look down at his fringe to remind him that he needed to go and make his appearance? Go ahead.
And that you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring.
Now, if you look at this graphic, then we then see that the ribbon of blue is around the fringe, not around the border of the garment. So you have to consider how people have ended up pushing this whole thing of the fringes all along the border of the garment, all the way around. Go ahead.
That you may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your Elohim.
All right, so do all of my commandments, and this is what you're going to run into. And you have to learn to even see the hypocrisy for what it is. Even when they're talking about those things, these same commandments were given. We are commanded to give a tithe. Ask those fringe brothers who walk up, when the last time you tithe? I thought you said remind you to keep the law. Tithing is the law. Now the same person that'll be fringed up will drop $2 in the bucket. Wait a minute. You're a hypocrite. How you walking around with a fringe to remind you to keep the law, and you put a nickel and 4 pennies in the offering, but the tithe, but it reminded you to keep the law. You just forgot that part of the law there, right? Right. Hypocrisy. And Yahshua calls them out for who they are. See? Don't let these people push you into that mess. Go ahead, brother.
I am Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim.
Now, I'm gonna read the definition here for the fringe. Fringe H6734, which is Hebrew, and that's tizith, and I guess that's how you pronounce that. A floral or a wing-like projection. Look, it says a floral. That is a forelock of hair or a tassel, a fringe, a lock. Now, when you even look at the floral, we understand that a fringe resembles an upside down flower. If you turn a fringe and think about what a flower is, and it is going to look like that. You turn it upside down. This is what the fringe looks like. The ribbon of blue goes around the fringe, not a ribbon of blue around the whole border of the garment. What does that do? That starts to get into something else. And even before we get into that, we have to also understand that these were the ornaments of decoration that were given unto the children of Israel. So then we have to examine a few things. Let's go to Exodus chapter 33. See, even in our keeping of Yahweh's holy days, we know that we are keeping the righteousness of Yahweh's law. The letter of the law, our fathers couldn't keep it, and neither are we going to be able to keep it. This is not our focus to keep the letter of the law. We keep the righteousness of the law. So what some people wear their fringe for is not the same reason that other people wear theirs. Some people just want to wear it as an indication of who's all Hebrew. They want to be able to look down the street and recognize a Hebrew before they get to one. So that way they ain't got to ask you, brother, you Muslim? That's all they using it for. Let's go to Exodus chapter 33, and let's start that at verse 4.
Verse 4. And when the people heard these evil tidings, they mourned, and no man did put on his ornaments. For Yahweh had said unto Moshe, say unto the children of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. I will come up into the midst of you in a moment and consume you. Therefore now put off your ornaments from you, that I may know what to do unto you.
So in other words, Yahweh said, take them off. Because you got hypocrisy even in your wearing them. You doing it for show. Take off the ornaments. But we got selective amnesia. He had problems with them right off the rip. Yeah, tell them to put it on, that they may remember to keep the commandments. We see why they needed it. Because they were still captive at heart and mind. And what they wanted to follow and what was in their heart was following the gods of Egypt. That's why they needed a fringe. But people say, hey, look, it's in the law. This is what we need to do. Right? And look one of them in the eyes and ask them when the last time they tithed. And just, you're not going to get a real answer. What you look for is that distant, stupid look. That's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for right there. Don't worry. You're not going to get an answer. You're going to get that. The bottom of the lip going to go out real far. All right? Right. That's all you're going to get. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments by the Mount Horeb.
Right. So Yahweh said, take them off. Now read the definition here for in the borders of the garment.
H3671, kanaf, from H3670, an edge or extremity.
Now, you see how this says something different than in the fringe itself. Go ahead.
Specifically of a bird or army, a wing, of a garment or bed clothing, a flap.
Flap, the quarter. When you look at a shirt, there's a division on the side. Okay, so now you get to the 4 quarters of the garment. It has a division on the side because actually without, you realize you can't really walk that far. If there's not a split on the side of your shirt, if it's long, you can't step. Your stride is going to be real short. Go ahead.
A quarter, a border, corner, end.
All right. So considering that what we see in the border of the garment, now let's go to Matthew chapter 23. Go ahead, bro.
You know, even with the fringe that you just showed, it said on the border, the blue ribbon, that was towards the end of the fringe, which would be the border, the ending part.
But it specifically says around the fringe, not the border of your garment. See, because it tells you where the ribbon of blue was supposed to be, and what's being sold today, the ribbon is being directly connected to the garment itself. Matthew 23, and let's start this at verse 1.
Then spake Yahshua to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat.
The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat. They have the authority amongst the people. Go ahead.
All therefore whatsoever they bid you, observe, that observe and do, but do not you after their works, for they say and do not.
Right. The ones that's walking around with all the clothing, all of the everything on it, they're presenting all these things to you, but they're not doing any of them. You got folks jumping off into your face that hadn't even gotten a baptism. They ain't even been born yet. Go ahead.
For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for it to be seen of men.
Right. You can be seen of a lot of men if you go out and holler on the corner. Go ahead.
They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments.
Right. Enlarge the borders of their garments. They make broad their phylacteries. That's all those ornaments. So they got ornaments everywhere they go. They got stuff all over them. They got things on the borders of their garment. Go ahead.
And love the uttermost rooms at feasts, and chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be not you called Rabbi, for one is your master, even the Mashiach, and all you are brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father, which is in heaven.
Yet the Pope is giving himself the title, the Holy Father. Not only is he the Father, he the Holy Father. That means he is God in the flesh. You can't get any more blasphemous than that. Go ahead.
You know, even with this description that he's given, it goes right back to what you're saying. They got all this stuff on just to be seen, just to be recognized for a position, so you can greet them, Rabbi, Rabbi. So they're looking to be greeted, like we've talked about. You got the garments on, or you got your fringes on, so another Hebrew can say, "Oh, shalom, my brother."
Right.
So if you didn't see the fringes, you wouldn't shalom me.
Right. Right. It says we're supposed to be good to all men. And how am I gonna know if I see a Chinaman? He might be a Chinese Hebrew. So what? I ain't gonna greet him because he didn't look Hebrew enough. It said our people were spread to the four corners of the globe, right? They came there speaking all those different languages. So you just can't go up to people who just look like you. See, there's hypocrisy even in the setup. Go ahead.
Verse 10, neither be you called masters, for one is your master, even the Mashiach. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourselves, neither suffer you them that are entering to go in. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore you shall receive the greater damnation.
Right. When you look at the things that happen on Sunday morning, you have a whole lot of those people who do not understand what they're doing, but the leadership understands exactly what they're doing. They have the greater damnation. They're going to be people that Yahweh is going to pull out of that Christian church. Matter of fact, the majority of us, that's where we are. But those people that are in there teaching, they know exactly what they're teaching. Go ahead.
Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Woe unto you, you blind guides, which say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing, but whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. You fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifies the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing, but whosoever swears by the gift that is upon it, he is guilty. You fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifies the gift? Whoso therefore shall swear by the altar, swears by it, and by all things thereon. And whoso shall swear by the temple, swears by it, and by him that dwells therein. And he that shall swear by heaven, swears by the throne of Elohim, and by him that sits thereon. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law.
Now, Yahshua calls them hypocrites because they've actually paid the tithes, but omitted the weightier matters of the law. These folks that are walking around with fringes ain't never paid no tithe. So they even bigger hypocrites than the hypocrites that Yahshua talking about. Right?
And have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. You blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel.
You know how backwards you got to be to strain at a gnat and swallow a camel? You have some serious issues. Go ahead.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess.
But within are full of extortion and excess. But they got all the visual aids you want to see. Everything that you can think of, they have all the decorations. Got all the handmade garments. Right. Read.
You blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also.
Right.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so you also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you're full of hypocrisy and lawlessness.
Right. And this is Yahshua. This is him. See, we think that Yahshua don't go around doing nothing but saying a bunch of niceties to people. So as soon as somebody have something said to them that hurt their feelings, they don't understand that those things may hurt your feelings unto salvation, because it may cause you to make a positive change in your life. If people just walk around saying nothing but nice things to you, where's your change going to come from? Go ahead.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore you be witnesses unto yourselves, that you are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill you up then the measure of your fathers. You serpents, you generation of vipers, how can you escape the damnation of hell?
Now, Yahshua saying some pretty mean stuff here. Serpents, you vipers, you children of hell, your daddy the devil. But see, somehow that part don't get put out. So whenever a servant of Yahweh starts dealing with some things, they got a problem. That's because they have not read Yahshua's words. So you're not going to get this on Sunday morning. You're not going to get this because they have to present him as this nice, peaceful entity that just walking around like a politician. You know, he's shaking hands and kissing children. That's all he doing. Go ahead.
Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall you scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation.
All right. So understanding, even dealing with all of the negative things that he had to say about these scribes and Pharisees and their magnification of the borders of their garments, let's go to Exodus chapter 24. I'm sorry, Exodus 28. And we're going to start with verses 1 through 4.
Exodus chapter 28 and verse 1. And take you unto you Aaron your brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And you shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother for glory and for beauty. And you shall speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office.
So then you have to consider what a lot of these camps are making. These brothers are walking around in priestly garments. They have handmade, custom-made garments. Okay? Go ahead.
And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate and an ephod and a robe and a broidered coat, a mitre.
Mitre is a headpiece. All right? This is a head covering. So when you're dealing with the house of Aaron, you then are dealing with the high priest. You're dealing with the priesthood and even dealing with this. So now you have this mitre, which is a greater head covering than what the underpriest had. Go ahead.
And a girdle, and they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office.
Right. So there must be these holy garments that are made for them to minister into the priest's office. But the first thing you end up seeing that sticks out is this mitre, which is a great head covering. Now jump down to verse 31.
And you shall make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and there shall be an hole in the top of it, in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the hole of it, as it were the hole of a habergeon, that it be not rent. And beneath upon the hem of it you shall make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the hem thereof, and bells of blue between them round about.
Bells of gold between them round about. So then you have around the hem pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet, and round about them thereof bells of gold between them. And then it's going to give even more instruction, and it is giving the instruction directly. It says beneath on the hem. All right, go ahead.
Verse 34, a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about.
So this is the very bottom. This is where these things are going. A golden bell, a pomegranate, a golden bell, and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. Which is exactly how people are wearing the fringes. They are wearing it like what the priests would be wearing. And they don't even see this. Now, what's interesting is they have the fringes done like a high priest, but without a high priest's head covering. So the fringes are done wrong, done in the form of a high priest while walking around without a head covering. See, your head covering shows that you are under the authority. That's what people don't want to be under. Because then even these under priests were then given a head covering as well. Keep going.
You know, even with that, when you go back to the fringe, it says the 4 quarters, and now you got specifics on this. It says the
hem. Right.
And the
you
only
see
blue,
something completely different.
Right. And the only blue is the pomegranate.
See, and then you have, this situation, how would the high priest be able to wear that thing all the way around and still have the bell and the pomegranate? So if that was the right way to have a fringe, you're going to run into a problem here with the high priest. See? Go ahead.
Verse 35, and it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goes in onto the holy place before Yahweh, and when he comes out, that he die not. And you shall make a plate of pure gold, engraven upon it, like the engravings of a signet, holiness to Yah. And you shall put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre. Upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be.
Now this is the high priest. Go ahead.
And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the lawlessness of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts.
All right, pay attention.
And it shall be always upon his forehead, that he may be accepted before Yahweh.
You see that? It may always be upon his forehead. This is why I say, when you get to the high priest, don't none of y'all run up to the high priest and say you need to take your head covering off. You might die right there. See, you need to understand certain things. See, so you got the same people that'll come at you with law, then go to the New Testament and say a man ought to not cover his head. So are you a man or a priest? Because according to this word, the children of Israel are a kingdom of priests. Remember, the priesthood was opened up from just the Levitical priesthood because Yahshua came out of the tribe of Yehuda. So we have to consider that thing. And this has to always be upon the head of the high priest. See, least you think you're doing something good and you run up to this man and say, we finna pray. I'm going to need you to take your head covering off. We might be visiting you at the hospital. All because you thought you were doing something good, but you didn't understand. See? That's why sometimes you need to, it's best to stay quiet for a little while until you learn something. At least you open your mouth and stick your whole foot in it. The brother that ended up touching that ark, he thought he was doing a really good deed. And they had to bury that brother because he didn't understand what he was doing. That's why you don't just jump in somewhere and start trying to do stuff. Sit down, watch, pay attention to what's going on before you just jump in and get yourself hurt. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 25.
Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto Yah.
Right. So we know what this Sabbath is. This Sabbath is based on 7. What is kept on Sunday morning is day 1. This is not even going to fit in the grand scheme of what righteousness is. This is going to present a problem. The land is supposed to keep a Sabbath. Go ahead.
6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Yah. You shall neither sow your field, nor prune your vineyard. That which grows of its own accord of your harvest you shall not reap, neither gather the grapes of your vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, and for your servant, and for your maid, and for your hired servant, and for your stranger that sojourns with you, and for your cattle, and for the beasts that are in your land, shall the increase thereof be meat. And you shall number 7 Sabbaths of years unto you, 7 times 7 years.
So now, even the very thing that fits within Pentecost is now given in a yearly fashion. So you're finding constantly 7, 7 times 7, and 50. You're finding 7s and 50s throughout the whole setup of righteousness. You got the 7 days, 7 times 7, 49. The next is 50. This is then your Pentecost. Then you have 49 years. Then given that 50th year is now set apart for something holy. He keeps the same order over and over again. If you figure out the order, you can figure out what it is Yahweh is doing because you know how he's going to do it. Go ahead.
And the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto you 49 years. Then shall you cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land.
So now the 50th year is now a Jubilee. The 50th day was an outpouring of the Spirit. The 50th year is a Jubilee. Now, this is a different kind of outpouring. Read.
And you shall hallow this 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, and you shall return every man unto his family.
So consider, on the 50th day, the Spirit came in like a rushing mighty wind. On the 50th year, all of the people go out. They go back out to the places where they came from. Everybody is then freed. 50th day, everything come in. 50th year, everything go out. Yahweh has order. Go ahead.
A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which grows of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in of your vine undressed. For it is the jubilee. It shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this jubilee, you shall return every man unto his possession. And if you shall sell aught unto your neighbor, or buy aught of your neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the jubilee, you shall buy of your neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits, he shall sell unto you.
Right. So all of this stuff that has been sold goes back out in the jubilee for the most part. Now, they had a real problem with the Native Americans. They said, man, to this day, they called them, they said they was Indian givers. You know, because they let us get the land, and then they wanted it back. The land stays with those people. What you purchased was the usage of the land. But the land is theirs. If you don't understand that, you're going to think somebody did you wrong when they show back up the 50th year. Because all it takes for us to get used to something is like 50 minutes. And we don't already say, oh no, this is mine. I've had this for 49 minutes. This definitely mine. No, bro, what you got was the usage of that. That belongs to that man's family. You got to give that back. Go ahead.
According to the multitude of years, you shall increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years, you shall diminish the price of it. For according to the number of the years of the fruits does he sell unto you.
Right. So then the closer it gets to the Jubilee, you have had it longer, so it's a lesser price for him to redeem it. The longer it is to the Jubilee, the higher that price would have to be for redemption. Go ahead.
You shall not therefore oppress one another, but you shall fear your Elohim, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety. And the land shall yield her fruit, and you shall eat your fill and dwell therein in safety. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years.
The same thing that was given for us for the manna. They could gather that manna for those 6 days. Right before it got to be that preparation day, they were able to gather enough for that day and the next. He prepared Israel for that so that we wouldn't be out on the Sabbath looking for it. Go ahead.
And you shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old store.
Right. So then we have to take advantage of that preparation day that is given unto us. The same thing we have to do now. Take advantage of the preparation day. Let's go to Numbers chapter 4. You're going to find this order that Yahweh has throughout the things. Once you understand the basis of it, this is why they were able to go ahead and give the Greek term of penta, meaning 50, and set that forth in the New Testament without explaining all of these things, because it is known, if you understand the setup, that 50 is a pivotal point. But see, if you don't understand the basis, you just think Pentecost is just a little day, that they do a few things. You don't really understand that. You don't really understand the Jubilee. So let's get down to this, Numbers 4, and let's start that at verse 23.
From 30 years old and upward until 50 years old shall you number them, all that enter in to perform the service, to do work in the tabernacle of the congregation.
So then you had to be 30 to receive a charge, but they did have young workers at 25 who would serve as helpers to the other ones, but to receive this charge, they had to be 30 years old. When you look there, that is why Yeshua didn't get his baptism until 30. He had to be 30 years old to work in the priesthood. There is order. But if you don't understand that, you just think some things are happening. Go ahead.
This is the service of the families of the Gershonites, to serve and for burdens. And they shall bear the curtains of the tabernacle and the tabernacle of the congregation, his covering, and the covering of the badger skins that is above upon it, and the hanging for the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
So these different families have different jobs that they then hand down unto their offspring. So you can't just decide, I'm going to go and do, today I want to burn incense. That might be the last day you live. Was that given unto you and your family? Go ahead.
And the hangings of the court, and the hanging for the door of the gate of the court, which is by the tabernacle and by the altar round about, and their cords, and all the instruments of their service, and all that is made for them, so shall they serve. At the appointment of Aaron and his sons shall be all the service of the sons of the Gershonites, in all their burdens, and in all their service, and you shall appoint unto them in charge all their burdens. This is the service of the family of the sons of Gershon in the tabernacle of the congregation, and their charge shall be under the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron, the priest. As for the sons of Merari, you shall number them after their families by the house of their fathers. From 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, shall you number them.
Right. So just so you won't think it was just, something that he did for, the one family, he continues to follow the order from 30 to 50. And even when you get to today's retirement, it used to be set up. After 20 years, you got a pension from whatever company you work for. Oh, they don't offer those pension things no more. If you got one of those, you better, you better keep it. Them days is gone. There's people who that's why the military is the only thing that'll still do it. Brother served 20 years in the military. Boom, they set. That's why you have a lot of them that went in early. Hey, I go in at 18. They come out 38 straight. That's the only place you're getting 20-year retirement. Every other place, it's a done deal. And then they kept moving back Social Security further and further and further. And then if you get it now, you got to get it early, and then they take off something because you got it too early. But if you wait too late, you won't get it but 4 days and then die. I got Social Security. And you know what they gonna do? I'm sorry, she died right when you got there. Give me that check back. Wait a minute. She didn't get but one? Yeah, but since she died right there, we're gonna need you to give that back. Then come take that check back. So that means you pay for everybody else. Go ahead.
Verse 30. From 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, shall you number them, every one that enters into the service to do the work of the tabernacle of the congregation. And this is the charge of their burden, according to all their service in the tabernacle of the congregation, the boards of the tabernacle, and the bars thereof, and the pillars thereof, and sockets thereof, and the pillars of the court round about, and their sockets, and their pins, and their cords, with all their instruments, and with all their service. And by name you shall reckon the instruments, the charge of their burden. This is the service of the families of the sons of Merari, according to all their service in the tabernacle of the congregation under the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest.
Mm-hmm.
And Moshe and Aaron and the chief of the congregation numbered the sons of the Kohathites after their families and after the house of their fathers. From 30 years old and upward, even on to 50 years old, everyone that enters into the service for the work in the tabernacle of the congregation.
Right. And if we keep reading, we're going to read over and over from 30 years old even unto 50. From 30 to 50. So you have these things that you have to consider within this book. 50 days, then 50 years is this thing where every man is released. This is a jubilee, which then matches this retirement. At 50 years, you are retired and free from service. Now, this doesn't mean you don't do anything. Let's go to Numbers chapter 8. Because, see, we got, you have to go ahead and, take care of that. Numbers 8 and verses 23 through 26. Now, remember, you had that situation where they would allow the younger brothers to come in and help those ones that were able to receive a charge. But the ending age is still the same. Numbers 8 and verse 23.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, This is it that belongs unto the Levites. From 20 and 5 years old and upward, they shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. And from the age of 50 years, they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more.
They shall serve no more. Keep reading.
But shall minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of the congregation, to keep the charge, and shall do no service.
To keep the charge and do no service. So then they will be able to appoint and give information on things, but will not have to do the physical labor of all of those, being that they have served all of those years. Go ahead.
Thus shall you do unto the Levites, touching their charge.
So then when we deal with what this Pentecost is, we deal with this Penta, this Greek term for 50. The real name of that is the Feast of Weeks. But we find this 50 as a part of Yahweh's setup over and over and over again. It is just not the 50 days dealing with Pentecost. We have 50 throughout. Even when you talk about the Jubilee is when every man is returned unto his own land. When you read in Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51, when all of the people start to leave the daughter of Babylon, what do you think that is? That is the Messiah blowing that Jubilee trumpet, sending everybody back to their own land. You still have 50 even in our redemption. But if you don't connect all of that, you really don't, you just think we hanging out. But this Pentecost connects to a whole lot of other things. So that when we keep these days, we will understand why Saul said, I must by all means go to Jerusalem to keep this feast. I must by all means make this trip. Then we understand that there was a reason why he was doing those things. And understand everybody couldn't make that trip. Yahweh knows that. It's something different than when we in our land. And I have to put that out there because we have members from, all over almost every state. We got a sister in Canada who probably been really rooting for Toronto right now, watching these games and whatnot. But we got people everywhere. What we gonna say? They got to come? We understand that we are living during the times of our captivity. So we do the best we can with what we can. But it's gonna come a time that we ain't gonna have no excuse. That we're gonna have to do that same thing that Saul set forth I must by all means make this trip because I have to make my appearance. And understand that is also put on all males. But then they bring, of course, their families. Ain't nobody gonna leave their families at home, but because this is a trip. And then you consider with all of the things spread out, there was already a separate court for the women. So you have to take that into consideration. As a separate court for the women, that gives already a situation where there's not going to be any unclean situation from within the holy court. But you also not going to go and leave, your wife and kids 100 miles away. Yahweh has everything worked out. All right? That's why he said, if you do what you're supposed to do, when you come up to worship me, no man shall desire your land. They ain't going to even want to run up in your stuff. Think about it. Wait a minute. If you look up and all the people going that way and it ain't no storm, Jake. I'm going in there as soon as they get through leaving. I'm going in there. That's because I saw them carry that big television in there. It was 2 of them. Me and you, we're going to go get it out of there. Right. Yahweh say, you do what you're supposed to do. They won't even desire your stuff. That's all that we're going to do for today. And maybe there's, we will have just a little bit more understanding of what it is we are going to partake of next week. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.